Okay, so we are working on an 8 gored skirt, and we know that the waist measurement of the block is 75 centimetres. Okay, just a recap. The hip measurement is 103 centimetres. We've taken that off the block. If you were calculating it from a person, a client, you need wearable ease. So you would take their body measurement for a fitted garment, and then you would add 2 inches or 5 centimetres onto that body measurement for wearable ease, and that's what your block includes. All right, so if you were working different ways. So we have decided that the pattern, including the wearable ease, needs to be 75 centimetres at the waist and 103 at the hips. So I want to do an 8 gore skirt, so it would look, they're all equal panels, so my technical drawing on each side looks something like this. Alright, and it would be the same at the back. We'd have a facing there and a side zip. So that's 4 panels on the front that I could have 9, 7 gores. So it depends on the number of gores by the number you divide these measurements by. So we're working on an 8 gore skirt. So we have done 75 centimetres divided for the waist, divided by the 8. So that is the number of gores. All right, and we worked it out, rounded it up to 9.4 centimetres. The hips, so we've drawn this equally. I've drawn on the pattern paper a straight grain, that's down the centre, and then my 9.4 for my waist measurement, I've just split equal sides. So that total measurement there is 9.4, but I did it across equally. So it was about 4.7 either side. For the hips, we measure the hips 20 centimetres below the waist. Okay, so we've drawn our line 20 centimetres down and at a right angle to our straight grain. And then we need to make that calculation. Our hips were 103 centimetres, and we divide that by 8, or the number of gores that you want, or panels, whatever you want to call them, and we worked that out at 12.9 centimetres. So this measurement at the hip needs to be 12.9, so either side, it's half of 12 is 6, half of 9 is 4.5, so it's there, so 6.45. Check my maths because I'm never that confident, and that comes out 12.9 roughly. So this is where my hip line would be. That's the width of my hip. The other calculations would be the hem. How wide do you want your hem? And again, you would decide that, and it was normally kicked out. It's a little bit flary, so I would say it would be bigger than my hip measurement. So we need to then, we don't draw straight lines because our body is curvy. If we drew a straight line, we haven't got enough for our upper hip. We are curvy, so we use the Pattern Master, which has got the curves on it. And remember that they need to be the same either side, so you can draw one side, fold it over. At the minute we're working without seam allowances. So we need to find a curve on our Pattern Master that works. We might need to use a couple of curves and blend them like that, so we don't have any lumps and bumps. We've got a nice curve coming in for our hip, waist to hip. This, if we did it, kept it at that straight line there, we will end up, when we join the two together, with it actually dipping. So we want to make that go up a little bit at a right angle, so that when you join them, and then it will just blend. Again, use your curve to blend it off, like that. And we're going to do a reflection on the other side. So we just need to work on this one half. And then the decisions of your skirt is what length you want it to be. So the other design decisions that we want to think about are what the hem measurement's going to be. And we've made a decision that our hem is 110 centimetres. So we divide that by the number of gauze. So in this instance is 8. So it's 13.75. And then so we know where to draw the hem, we need to know the design of the length of the skirt. And we've just decided that it's going to be 70 centimetres. These are all individual design decisions. So the waist and the hip measurement would go on the body and then add wearable ease, but the hem is a design and the length is a design, and the number of gauze or panels is a design. So we then need to measure, this is our waist here, we need to measure down 70 centimetres to get to the hem. So 20, 40, and to extend my straight grain, 50, 60, it's quite long. 70, I might not have enough paper. Let me check that again. That's 40, 50, 60, 70. And then draw the perpendicular line there. For my hem measurements, and the total hem was 13.75, so I just want to divide it equally, so it's just shy of 7 on each side. A little couple of millimetres more. Okay, so we've got 13.75, but I've done it equally. And then I need to draft my line from my hem up to my hip. Can't quite get that in focus. So you need a long ruler and aim that so it goes and finishes at your hip. Now at the minute I've gone straight from my hip down, so my pattern is coming from my hip and then sort of flaring out. If you wanted it more like a fishtail mermaid skirt and you want it coming in, you need to work out from the hips how much you can come in and still be able to walk. Alright, so if skirts are too tight across the thigh, we can only do little wiggles and shuffles, so they're not as practical. Might look beautiful, but we need to be able to walk in it. So you may want to just bring it in a little bit here, continue from the hips, that line a small amount, and then blend that out to the hem. So I've just given it a bit more shape coming in, and then take the straight line down to the hem. But you would twirl it before you make those decisions, because obviously this will make a big impact on the fit. So that's my pattern. I've done it in half because I'm going to trace half of it off. It's gone up a bit so I don't have it dipping at the hem. Nice line, so that's my 8 gauze, my hip measurement, and then the shape down to my hem. And again with my hem, I don't want it to dip, so I've got to keep those curves, that angle, so I do a right angle on my line and then soften the curve. Once I've done this, I add my seam allowances because I've drafted it net, no seam allowances. So I might put a 2 centimetre hem, because you won't be able to turn it up much more than that, and 1.5 centimetres there. Remember, you want a little bit of a kick going back in. So continue that on my new line. And my seam allowance. Draw it all the way up. And then along the waist. Then I can fold it in half on my draft line and my straight grain. And cut it out accurately. And this is a long length of skirts, so I would add a notch on this long length because it's a long thing to sew. We'll have a notch at the hip because your zip will be in one of the seams. So at the 20 centimetres down I would put a notch here. I would have a notch at this point here. But this is such a long length. Don't do it halfway, do it a little bit off, so when your panels are joined together it's easy to know which is which. And make sure it's not at 20 centimetres, otherwise you might sew them in upside down. So they're just slightly different. So continue cutting it on that fold up to the top. And then you have created your pattern piece for your gored skirt. That centre line is the straight grain. Alright, and then because we calculated it and divided it by 8, we will cut 8 panels. Right, so we need 8 of them to make the skirt so that the maths fits. If you had a 7 gored skirt, if you'd done all of it by 7, then you would cut 7. Likewise, if you'd done 12 and divided all your measurements by 12, you would have 12. So that is how you can create your own gored skirt panel just using the measurements from a block or from your body measurements, adding on 5 centimetres or 2 inches of wearable ease.